They always on the oven and the microwave. And they're flashing in the and the third thing is when all that happens and then nothing is flashing, nothing is on, because the power is out. It's gone. Oh my, and then I have to let it all out. The generator, get it out and fire it, plug that in and fire it. But anyway. They've gotten a lot better at power.
Thing on the upcoming meeting. The upcoming meeting on the 21st. Special announcement. So, Jason, or some territory. And I'm trying to think through it.
Right.
It's okay. Just tell them what it's about.
I went down to 64.
Is it really? Oh, no, it's not. Bruce is a year. I don't know. It's not as bad. I don't feel it up here.
The water's right here.
Thank you.
Good.
Hi, sweetie.
So, you want me to just end the message, go and introduce the hymn?
Why don't you?
Yeah.
That I would segue right into
Yeah,
the words. Yeah, that's
we can switch places during the hymn.
kind of sorry for me. That's fine.
We're just learning to be
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna miss you. I'm going to my 50th Prince reunion.
Good for you. Back in Massachusetts?
Yep.
Good for you. Well, we're going in August to Buckingham. 60th? No, it's not 60th. 60th. Yeah.
High school or college? Yeah, 60 is 63 because I graduated in 73 from college.
And I graduated in 68, but I've never been back to South Carolina.
Yeah.
In fact, her class has adopted me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had over that. It's okay.
I had it sing that. Thank you, Beth. Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County. My name is Hank Bolst. Today I'll be your service leader again. A warm welcome to all in here, out there, everyone, everywhere. Please ensure that electronic devices are turned off or put on silent mode or what have you. And if you have any difficulty in hearing, let us know, raise your hand or whatever, and Tom can make some adjustments back there. First time here, or maybe it's been a while since you've been here. It's our custom at UUFDC to invite you to stand and introduce yourself so that we can get to know you just a wee bit better. And then after the service, we go 15 minutes into the gathering room for coffee and some refreshments and the like. And we'd love to invite you there as well, maybe get to know you even better. And make sure to sign the guest book, please. This is the time that we allot for announcements. And so I'd like to invite anybody out there who has an announcement to share them with the fellowship. Please raise your hand, and Buttons has the microphone. She'll find you and let us know what you want to share.
On behalf of our treasurer, Bob Lindahl, I want to remind you, if you have not yet turned in your pledge, it's past the due date, and we really need those. And we have a number of people who have pledged before that we haven't heard from yet. So please help us by turning that in by tomorrow, if possible. The board is making a decision on the budget this week, so we need that information. Thank you.
I'm Tom Schroeder. In reference to last week's message with David, if anybody's looking for a quart of manure, I've got several tons of the stuff laying around. I'm glad to share with any gardener or anybody who wants to start composting.
Any other announcements?
Actually, I have an announcement. Third Avenue Playworks is opening their season this week. And on Wednesday, they open up with a new play that's never been shown before. And it is a free will offering. So that's a good time to go. And then they also have their big grand opening on Friday, the 12th. You have to buy tickets for that one. The play is I Carry Your Heart With Me. More later.
Who benefits from the free will offering, by the way?
Yes, the free will offering, all of the proceeds from that money, thank you, that are given go to the
It's a veterans organization.
the veterans it's the DC Farms for Vets. It is an organic farm on S, I think, and they do. They donate a lot of food to vets. Thank you, Hank.
And if I can get in a plug, there's a one-man art show in the gallery beginning Friday. And the art. Oh, okay. We'll wait for that. Okay. You can still do that. Yes, Jeff.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Maris. I'm down in West Jacksonport, and I don't know if it should be in the announcement section, but we're very proud and happy that in the past week, we managed to put in 1,500 trees.
Wow.
And that's a record for us, and things are going good.
Super. Super. I have an announcement as well, and it actually is listed in the order of service as our 21 May special fellowship meeting. And so I'll make just a few words about that because that's scheduled for the 21st, 2 weeks from today, and that will occur after the service that day. And I'm probably going to read most of this, if that's okay. By now, most of you are aware that the governing board has called a meeting for that day. The meeting concerns the proposed revisions to Article 2 in the bylaws of the UUA, of which, of course, we are a member. Those revisions essentially replace the 7 principles and 6 sources with new verbiage and supporting graphics. Now, Article 2 of the UUA bylaws, principles, and purposes is the foundation for all the work of our UUA and its member congregations and its covenanted communities. It's the covenant by which, to which all congregations and covenant communities pledge themselves when they become members of UUA. The current bylaws date back to 1985. They were revised in 1987, but they have not been altered since. About 3 years ago, the UUA board set up a commission called the Article 2 Study Commission. And after 2 years, in January of this year, they published their recommendations. And I think in a number of e-blasts, I've provided you with information, references, sources, both pro and con. Not wanted to take a position on it. I want you to basically draw your own conclusions. But we provided a number of sources, hyperlinks, and the like. On the 26th of April, we had invited members of the fellowship to get together on Wednesday evening. That was a week ago this past Wednesday, and discuss it. And 20 people attended. I think Juliana made a reference to it last week through Anna. I think Anna made the announcement on your behalf. Very positive meeting. And so it was intended to be a discussion of the changes proposed and individuals' reactions to them. It was frank, and it was respectful, and it was informative. And the consensus essentially was that the group had some serious misgivings and qualms and concerns. And it was further agreed that we should write a letter, compose a letter, and that the fellowship then be given an opportunity to review that letter. And if they felt, as a simple majority at a special meeting, if they felt that we should send that on behalf of the fellowship to UUA, we would do so, but only with a special meeting, and that's the meeting I'm talking about, with a quorum, 30% is required, and with a simple majority, and we would send the letter. Now, that letter was composed not by me only. It was by Barb Campbell, Marianne O'Dowd, Alan Kopishki, and myself. And that letter and its ultimate disposition is going to be the focus of that meeting. Now, I'll be distributing the letter probably sometime in the next couple of days to everybody in the fellowship. Gives you ample time to read it, review it, and all that sort of thing. I want to stress that the meeting is not going to be to debate the letter. The meeting is going to be to discuss whether we should send the letter or not. We're not going to spend that meeting basically trying to reinvent the wheel. The letter reflects the thoughts of 20 people who took the time to come to that meeting. We had a good discussion. I think the letter is well written, well composed. And so the meeting essentially will be to make a determination as to whether the fellowship wants to go on record in sending that letter to UUA or not. So anyway, that's the announcement on that. And then we now go and stand, if you're able, and join in the singing of hymn number 318. That music, by the way, was composed by John Sibelius. unusual to hear him in the middle of a service. Usually he's for the finish. I've used that before. We will now do the chalice lighting with words from Florence Caplow, who is the minister of the UU Church of Champaign-Urbana. We light this chalice in honor of the animal realm, furred and hoofed, two-legged, four-legged, many-legged, fanged and clawed, gentle and fierce, wild and tame. May we remember that all animals are our relatives, worthy of our care and respect. First reading of today is, I'll be doing it, Mark will be doing the second. On the first Sunday of any given month, we as service leaders tend to focus our remarks on one of the 7 principles to provide some illumination of a particular principle. And for this Sunday, I've chosen the 7th principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Our 7th principle may be our Unitarian Universalist way of coming to fully embrace something greater than ourselves, the interdependent web, expressed as the spirit of life, the ground of all being, the oneness of all existence, the community-forming power, the process of life, the creative force, even God, which can help us to develop that social understanding of ourselves that we and our culture so desperately need. And today I want to focus on animals of the world, a vital and critical component of that interdependent web. An article several years ago in The Guardian cited this alarming fact. The world's 7.6 billion people represent 0.01%, not 1%, 0.01% of all living things on this earth, according to the particular study cited. Yet since the dawn of civilization, humanity has caused the loss of 83% of all wild animals and half of plants, while livestock kept by humans abounds. The operative word wild versus livestock kept in pens and barns and industrial farms by humans abounds. That's not respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Kind of a somber finding, so a little bit on the lighter side now. Trout are made of trees. In fall, trees let go of leaves, which swirl and twirl and slip into streams. They ride in a rush above rocks and over rapids. They snag and settle, soggily down. Bacteria feed on the leaves. Algae grow, softening surfaces. Next, the shredders move in, the crane flies, the caddis flies, crayfish, stoneflies. They shred the leaves. They eat the algae-covered leaves, which become a part of them. Meanwhile, predators are swimming and stalking. There go the caddisflies. There go the stoneflies. Now the leaves have become a part of the predators. Trout join in. Fins flick. They eat dragonflies, caddisflies, stoneflies, and minnows. The leaves have now become a part of the trout. Tree shade keeps the stream cool for spawning. Females trout gather over the gravel and lay their eggs. The males fertilize the eggs. Here come the hatchlings. They grow up in the stream, shaped by fallen branches. Trout are made of trees, and so are the bears and the people who catch the trout and eat them. Respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we all are a part. Please join and rise in doing and saying the unison affirmation, and then remain standing for the singing of the doxology. We gather together to seek knowledge and wisdom, to explore freely the vast reaches of mind and spirit, to celebrate within a caring community those truths, ancient and modern, which give meaning and direction to our lives. Joy lifts the heart. Concern weighs it down. Sharing within a community of friends can certainly raise a joy to greater heights, or provides balm and lessens the weighty burden of concern. So if you have a joy or concern you'd like to share, please share it. The mic will find you. And bear in mind that this is live stream, so if you're going to reference names, make sure that you've gotten clearance to do so. Diane. Oh, I'm sorry. Peggy.
Okay. I'm sure Colin would not mind my reiterating his invitation to church in Ephraim for their concert this afternoon, which is at 2 and at 5.
Mhm.
All kinds of wonderful music, including some opera singers and a bagpiper. So please come. It's free will offering, and it is quite wonderful.
I have to put this under joy because that man beat me out by having more trees. But we had tree planting at Bay Ridge, and there were some wonderful people from the UU there, including, I have to mention, Mary Smite, who's not here. I can understand why she's not here. She was planting, Mary Smite, she was planting from 1 to 5. I've never seen anyone, she never stopped. Never stopped. It was unbelievable. And there were other people there, but there were a great group of people, and we planted a lot of trees. Now we just have to figure out how to keep them alive. So anybody can join in watering anytime they want. I don't know if it rained last night.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I slept right through it. I just crashed.
It did.
So anyway, I'm really excited about what we've been able to do and will continue to do.
Any other joys or concerns? I'll share one real quick. And I see she's not here today, Charlotte Lucas, because I saw Jay and Nancy there yesterday, but she had announced last week that she was going to be giving a presentation on mushrooms at the Cross Creek. Crossroads. So we went yesterday, and it was really good. The exhibits and then Charlotte's remarks and presentation. I never realized that she had such a deadpan sense of humor, but it was really good, and I'm glad we went. And I guess she's going to be doing some foraging, leading some foraging groups and so forth. Throughout the course of the year, she had a schedule. And so if you're interested at all in that, I would encourage you to touch base with her or sign up, and do it early because it was quite crowded yesterday. So in these foraging groups, there may not be mushroom. Sarah?
I'll ditto that.
All right, so this is kind of a funny joy about the mundanes of life. So every weekend, I'm like, this is a weekend. You got to make the best of it. But then you realize you have mounds of laundry to fold and housework to do. And that was one of those weekends. And I was bummed because I wanted to have a really special weekend, one with memories. And I was driving to work today, and I realized I did have one of those weekends. While I was knee deep in clothes and all that fun stuff, my husband was making me laugh so hard. And I have so many memories of him making me laugh. And it's just we don't always need to be in control to create those beautiful memories. It's just being present and with each other, whether you're folding laundry or, you know, sailing. You can still have a great memory.
And I do have a joy. Back to the tap, the Third Avenue Playworks. I am thrilled to have a one-man show in the art gallery in the lobby. And it is open. Anyone can walk in. The lobby hours are open from 10 until 5 daily and an hour before each performance. And this goes from now, actually. The paintings are up and it goes through May 28th. So, yeah.
Super. Congratulations. Any other joys and concerns? We rely on your generosity of spirit and of shekel. As the offering plate passes before you, please give generously. Be mindful that you also may make contributions on our website at uufdc.org. Donate now. And if this is your first time visiting us, please let your presence today be your gift and donation. Contemplate now the stillness of a blue spring sky, save for the occasional honking of a skein of geese, and let that make space for your thoughts and dreams and memories. Mark Richards needs no introduction to this fellowship. He's a member. He's also a Unitarian Universalist minister and a hospice chaplain. And Mark serves as the president of WUSON, which is the Wisconsin Unitarian Universalist Action Network. So having started by saying he needs no introduction, I'll not give one beyond what I just said. Here's Mark.
Thank you, Hank. Good morning. So before I start, I want to lift up one more concern. This morning in the New York Times, Congressman Keith Self, who is the congressman that represents Allen, Texas, the site of the outlet shooting yesterday that left 9 people dead. He was quoted as saying Those who think thoughts and prayers are not enough do not believe in an almighty God who is in absolute control of our lives. I am dismayed, to say the least, that a elected official who is responsible for the safety and well-being of our people will abdicate that responsibility so easily. The Reverend William Ellery Channing, a Unitarian Universalist minister of over 200 years ago, wrote, "God gave us a brain. God expects us to use it. And that's why I am a Unitarian Universalist." So, having said that, in a couple of weeks, I'm going back east to celebrate my 50th college reunion. And I've been having thoughts, thinking back to those days as an American literature major. And a lot of the readings that poetry and prose that we'll use today comes from the 19th and 18th century. Hope you can get through it. Hope I can get through it. I will keep the original text, and so just don't get distracted by the male gender. I'm sure the writers are speaking to all of us. We're going to open with a poem by another Unitarian minister, Ralph Waldo Emerson, called Each and All. Little thinks in the field yon red-cloaked clown of thee from the hilltop looking down. The heifer that lows in the upland farm, far heard, lows not thine ear to charm. The sexton tolling his bell at noon deems not that great Napoleon stops his horse and lists with delight, whilst his files sweep around yon alpine height. Nor knowest thou what argument thy life to thy neighbor's creed has lent. All are needed by each one. Nothing is fair or good alone. I thought the sparrow's note from heaven, singing at dawn on the alder bough. I brought him home in his nest at even. He sings the song, but it cheers not now. For I did not bring home the river and sky. He sang to my ear. They sang to my eye. The delicate shells lay on the shore. The bubbles of the latest wave fresh pearls to their enamel gave. And the bellowing of the savage sea greeted their safe escape to me. I wiped away the weeds and foam and fetched my seaborne treasures home. But the poor, unsightly, noisome things had left their beauty on the shore, with the sun and the sand and the wild uproar. The lover watched his graceful maid as mid the virgin train she strayed, nor knew her beauty's best attire was woven still by the snow-white choir. At last she came to his hermitage, like the bird from the woodlands to the cage. The gay enchantment was undone, a gentle wife, but fairy none. Then I said, I covet truth. Beauty is unripe childhood's cheat. I leave it behind with games of youth. And as I spoke, beneath my feet, the ground pine curled its pretty wreath, running over the club moss burrs. I inhaled the violet's breath. Around me stood the oaks and firs. Pine cones and acorns lay on the ground. Over me soared the eternal sky, full of light and deity. Again I saw, again I heard, the rolling river, the morning bird. Beauty through my senses stole. I yielded myself to the perfect whole. Yeah. Sorry, that didn't work the way it was supposed to work. I have to admit to you that coming up with a title for a message a month ahead of time opens the door to leaving a topic, of having that topic morph and transform and die and reemerge in a different context altogether. So we will talk about identity and we'll discuss culture wars a bit, but I've been taken by my topic into a dimension of philosophical speculation that I cannot resist. I hope you'll come along. A few weeks ago, Art Kapishke talked to us about non-binary identity. Since it first came to the forefront of Unitarian Universalist conversations, I've been a bit troubled by the whole idea of identity ministry, identity politics, identity theology. I really don't know what context to talk about identity anymore. Art did a great job of helping me to understand the experience of non-binary. They helped me clarify a conversation that many of my younger clergy colleagues seem to take for granted. I examined my feelings about the issue because it seemed very important to the future of our faith, while at the same time waving flags of concern. For example, say a young person still struggling to understand their own identity becomes friendly with a group who welcomes them, includes them in their activities, and generally makes them feel like they belong. What happens when that young person discovers that the group is composed of those who share a different identity? Is the young person self-aware enough to know? Does the group have enough maturity to help that person discover their own identity? Does each member adhere to the integrity of the group? I can tell you from personal experience that it's not always the case, but I won't. The point is, one who is not fully self-aware may not want to assume an identity that may not befit them just to remain in the good graces of a group. Extracting themselves from that group identity may result in the loss of good friends and emotional trauma. It's a hard way to grow up. On the other hand, lifting up identities which have been suppressed by weighty cultural norms, bring them into an open and honest conversation. By naming the identities and helping others to grow into their own identities, we can begin to peel back the layers until we reveal the core of our humanity, the core that we all share, the core that identifies us as belonging to the human race and life on earth. I quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay, The Oversoul. The supreme critic on the errors of the past and the present, and the only prophet of that which must be, is that great nature in which we rest as the earth lies in the soft arms of the atmosphere. That unity, that oversoul, within which each man's particular being is contained and made one with all other. That common heart of which all sincere conversation is the worship, to which all right action is submission. That overpowering reality which confutes our tricks and talents and constrains everyone to pass for what he is and to speak from his character and not from his tongue. And which evermore tends to pass into our thought and hand and become wisdom and virtue and power and beauty. We live in succession, in division, in parts, in particles. Meantime, within man is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty, to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. End quote. The extension of this metaphor is that we are each a unique expression of this oversoul. Each configuration of life derives from a central source, the eternal one. It is the essence of American transcendental movement and the core understanding of Unitarian Universalism. Each is unique unto itself, rising from a common source, its truth and beauty lying in relationship to all. Different religions have different ways of presenting this phenomena. Here are some examples. In Hinduism, it's called the Atman, and he is the eternal self or soul that resides within each individual, who is identical to Brahman, the supreme reality. In Judaism, it's called Ruach HaKodesh, and it is the aspect of God that inspires prophecy, wisdom, creativity among humans. In Buddhism, it's not a personal being, but rather a term for the Buddha nature, which is the potential for enlightenment and compassion that exists within each individual. In Christianity, it is called the Holy Spirit. It is the third person of the Trinity who dwells inside every true believer and guides them in their walk of faith. In Islam, it's called the Ruh al-Qudus, and it is one of the names of God who helped to reveal the Quran to Muhammad and supported him and his followers. Now, in the past, I have proposed from this podium that this power that binds us together is what we call love. If we agree that all forms of life as we know them uniquely arise from a common source, then that source is an integral part of our makeup, and that we are bound in relationship to each other by that source, then we can reasonably conclude that that source is love. And it is the source from which life arises. The same source resides within each of us, and it is revealed that we can freely acknowledge and set aside the identities that define our uniqueness. Now, running counter to the power of love is the power of fear, the power which separates us. Fear can take on several dimensions. It can be a sense of dread or terror, like when we are faced with something that we don't understand, something which challenges all that we know. Think of the women at the tomb on Easter morning. This is the fear that ignites fight, flight, or freeze, responses of our emotional system. Lack of knowledge represents a threat to our existence. But fear can also be a way, it can also offer us a way to stand back from something so as to examine it more clearly and come to a fuller understanding. By resisting that emotional response to what we do not understand, we can objectify our thinking. It's not a debilitating fright, but a measured method of observation that overcomes our dread and helps us to define an appropriate relationship. We might say it is the path we take to replace our fear of something with a love for something. Jonathan Edwards, the 18th century New England preacher, writes in his treatise concerning the religious affections that these two opposite principles of love and fear should rise and fall like the two opposite scales of a balance. When one rises, the other sinks. Fear is cast out by the Spirit of God, no other way than by the prevailing of love. Nor is it ever maintained by his Spirit, but when love is asleep. Fear is not maintained by the Spirit of God unless love is asleep. Love and fear are the powers that prevail in our relationships with each other and with the world we live in. When we are born, we each have the power to choose what we will love, what we will fear. And as we grow, we share that power with others. When we love our families and our friends and our mates and even our gods, that power multiplies as it merges with their power of love. Families, fellowships, churches, social groups are some of the entities that we empower with the love that we are given at birth. But fear can become a problem. When we fear, we seek safety. And safety is a commodity that is traded with regularity. The cost is typically some of the power that each of us was born with. Those who would exploit your power will lift up threats to your safety, which they will then promise to protect you from. When I was in the 3rd grade, there was a 6th grader who ran his own little protection racket. He threatened to beat the younger kids up, and to avoid getting beat up, you had to give him 10 cents a day from your lunch money. He was a big kid, so you couldn't really fight with him. And of course, this is a simplistic protection racket that's been used for centuries by those who are capable of perpetuating violence. It depends upon the self-perceived helplessness of the victim, the immoral thinking of the perpetrator, and the ignorance or apathy of prevailing authority. In this case, the principal eventually caught wind of the scheme and shut it down. And although the bully was suspended, it's unclear what, if anything, he learned from his experience. Now, more sophisticated forms of this racket can be found in what we know as legitimate business. Take the private prison industry, for example. They make profits from housing prisoners that are sent to them by the state and federal governments. Naturally, the more prisoners they house, the more profits they make. So they use some of their profits to influence lawmakers to pass stricter laws to increase prison populations and thus generating even more profit. Unfortunately, the prevailing authority here is part of the racket. But finally, the most incipient uses of fear are those with prevailing authority to embellish their own power. In our country today, there is a concerted effort to gain power by dividing people, by setting one group against another, by holding up one group as the cause for all the ills of our nation. In order to differentiate ourselves from our opponents, we resort to character assassination and fear-mongering. Political ads do not portray what this candidate proposes as solutions to problems. They offer graphic evidence that the opponent is sinful, evil, and coming to take your children. Fear is the stuff of these ads, and when fear succeeds in crowning power, then it becomes the commodity for ruling. Be afraid. A young black man wants political power. Someone in the restroom has the wrong body parts. Mothers are killing their babies. Your children are groomed to become homosexual. Your world is changing beyond your capacity to understand, and there is nothing you can do about it. Fear not. I will protect you. Just give me the power to do whatever I want, and you will not have to fear anymore. I will save you. We are living in a world of fear, and arming the citizenry, only the good guys, of course, and locking up all the bad guys will make us safe and happy. You're welcome. Vote for me. Have we reached the peak of this absurdity yet? A telling example of how fear is perpetuated is the radical right's usurpation of the word woke. The term was popularized by the Black Lives Movement, but it has roots further back than that. A young Black person growing up in America experiences feelings of inferiority early in his life. After being fed a steady stream of degrading remarks, hateful expressions, derogatory actions, after continuously being relegated to the slower learning classes, denied access to the better books and schools, it's easy to understand how a young one would begin to take on the mantle of inferiority and suppression as truth. A very real and compelling need among African American liberationists is to help Black children see that the source of their feelings is not their own incapacity, but the system of racial prejudice so completely embedded in our society, which keeps them downtrodden. Woke becomes the term used to declare their enlightenment. But woke is now being associated with awakening to so many suppressive attitudes of our culture. LGBTQ plus people are becoming woke and stepping out of the closet. Transgender people are becoming woke and accepting their gender queerness as natural, if not normal state. But the radical right has glommed onto the word and turned it into a focus for fear, with no rational reason. No rational reason, except as a dog whistle for those who would keep our country white. Woke is a word from the African American community. So if I say woke, you see Black. When Ron DeSantis' attorney was asked by a judge to define the word woke, he said, "The belief there are systemic injustices in American society and the need to address them." Be afraid. Be very afraid. This tragic comedy is coming, I pray, to its absurd conclusion. Politicians more fixated on fear than on fixing problems of our nation must, in the course of history, be removed from power. The question is, in whose lifetime? Jonathan Edwards in the 18th century observed that fear and love rise and fall on the same scale. When one rises, the other sinks. Fear is dominant only when love sleeps. Love is the power that binds us. To face the fears of those who would keep us divided, we must speak the language of love. We must stand before the fearmongers with love in our hearts. We cannot act from our fear of them, but from our love of all humanity, for all living things on this planet. We must persist. We must endure. We must wake up. May it ever be so. Our closing hymn is number 121, We'll Build a Land. Land where we bind up the broken, we'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall flow down like waters, peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll be a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Oh, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall flow down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Build a land where the mantle of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall flow down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Thank you, Mark. Very thought-provoking, and if it did provoke thoughts with you, there'll be a talk back in about 15 minutes after the end of the service. We'll adjourn to the gathering room, have coffee and whatever else, and then come back here for about 20, 25 minutes of discussion with Mark. Let me take care of the chalice. With words from another Unitarian, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, although he later became an Anglican. He prayeth well, who loveth well, both man and bird and beast. He prayeth best who loveth best all things, both great and small. For the dear God who loveth us, he made and loveth all.
Thank